Here. Okay, here we go. So I should have been in bed a while ago. And as I'm going to bed late, I had to ask myself the question, should I shake or should I go to bed? And it occurred to me my mind is pretty calm but still awake. And so I'm hoping, in fact, my HRV is fairly high right now because I've been in a flow state for several hours. And I can tell that because my mental engagement has been exceptionally high, but my heart rate variability is also high. And that's congruent with medical studies. So basically, what that means is when I was in a flow state, I was able to engage enough of the subsystems of my brain to sort of load in whatever it was I was working on. And then that pattern recognition got sort of brought into my system one, and it's able to then just sort of generate and generate. So I was able to go through and do quite a bit of complicated processing and collapsing of relationships and such. But my system is, I need to calm down a little bit. It's a weird thing because I'm not used to having like a deep amount of parasympathetic and also have such amount of clarity. So it's a nice state, but I need to break from it because I can tell, even though I've been using my system one primarily, my body's fatigued, my brain's fatigued, and I'm going ahead and use this. But one of the outputs of this. So my personal experience recently started with a cat bite, led to Qigong shaking, and that Qigong shaking having an effect like meditation opened up some new ways of thinking. And so now all of a sudden, I got to pause for a second. I have a theory. Okay, I was trying to figure out how to approach this theory. I'm at a certain level of interaction with my outside world. I would like to add options in terms of how I react to the outside world. Now, as it is, my system right now is complete. Or at any given point in time, your system is complete. It's a self contained sort of paradox engine that's sitting there and looking for patterns and responding. And you occasionally wake up to allow sort of a little bit of a change in the paradox engine that is allowing the continuous birth of singularity and learning. One of the consequences is that I'm pretty certain I've got an inductive proof that learning requires failure. Now, I talked about this last night in terms of priming the pump, but think about this. Here is the primal failure of learning that is necessary to acknowledge to even begin the journey. How do you start learning? Until you have a spark, there's nothing to learn. And so the very first primal ignorance paradox that you have to break is becoming mortally aware that there is a distinction that you are currently only now aware that you are unaware of it. That is, something has entered your field of awareness that looks at like a potential new differentiation. And you have to acknowledge that paradox and start to question it to figure out its edges. That's the essence of learning. And notice there is an initial change or input into the system. Who knows what it is? In my case, it was the cat biting my thumb, leading to more continuous qigong. And I'm at this point where I believe that qigong is a way to, I'm going to say it, to basically connect with all versions of yourself across all time and space. And I mean that in the sense that as emptiness suggests that there is no independent arising, we are at all times connected forward and backward. I can now point to things in my past that have enabled my current. And that enabling of the current has allowed me to reconnect to my past. And as a result of that reconnecting, I'm now getting flow coming out of my system mentally and physically that I've never experienced. And it's been an ongoing journey for the past 10 days. And as you can see, I'm just flowing. And this is just the stuff that's coming out of my head. And I can see how when something like this happens, it could drive someone crazy. And so, in fact, even though I'm riffing right now and I'm going on and on, this shaking is going to get me out of this system because it keeps coming back. Given my heart rate variability reading and the fact that I've been riffing, it suggests to me that this has effectively restructured my brain or operated the core updated the core operating system such that now, for example, my subconscious messages have changed to be helpful. That's really happening. This is all happening. This has been going on. And so the primordial paradox of willing to admit that there's a distinction or differentiation that you were not aware of is the single most graceful act of ethical improvement that you can do. I'm going to just shake that out. I'm going to rest on that one and shake it out. That seemed pretty good. By the way, I have no script, just riffing, which is what I'm always doing, by the way. I sometimes have an outline, but I had an idea for this one. But I've got another physical visual metaphor that I'm going to work on. I think tomorrow night. I've had to order something, and then I believe the next metaphor series is going to extend that into basically quantum fields through a gyroscope, INRAS net, mirror ball, self-referential reflecting field talk. Okay, now I'm going to shake. Whew, that was okay. I have a prediction. So after this, I'm about at 8 minutes. After this 10 or so minutes or 15 minutes of Qigong, oh, actually, no, I remember 10 minutes of warm up, a little more aggressive, mixing it up like maybe side to side. Just try to get more randomness into the whole system because it really does help vary. And the more you vary the body, the more the body adjusts and becomes more fluid and dynamic. And I know this looks silly, but given the effects of Qigong shaking over the last 3 weeks, I don't give a F at all because my self knowledge is telling me that right now, this is the thing for me. It may not be the thing next week, but right now, this is the stuff. But anyway, back to my prediction. I lost my train of thought. So my HRV was high, and I think that this is going to hopefully lower it, get it back to more balance. But I don't know. We'll find out. So my plan is 10 minutes total of just some kind of shaking. And then I'm going to finish with neck isometrics and then a forward fold to sort of stretch the spine. And then I'll stop and immediately do an HRV. I'll compare the baseline to the now 15-minute program. And I'll come back and report on it. Here's the thing at this point. I generally am intuitively driven person. And the experimentation, the numbers and all that kind of stuff, it's valuable. It's absolutely valuable. I don't need it. I don't. I just don't. I somatically feel it. I get it. I'm starting to be able to identify regions of localized blood flow in my brain, also known as energy, mental chi, if you will. So there's mental potential chi in the form of reduced astrocytic calcium fluctuation, allowing for the storage of potential energy in biomechanical form that can later serve as resources for the brain. And then there's the active use of energy. And I was feeling stuff up here and also back and across here in the visual cortex at different points. And then I sort of confirmed those sensations with the brain regions. So just a quick summary, and then I'm going to do some stretching. Chi, elastic chi. If I were to touch your skin, go just below the surface and touch your fascial tissue, which is high proprioceptive reception, and I pull, I've just introduced potential elastic energy, and I've just released it. And given the sensitivity of the proprioceptive reception of the fascia, and also the fact that the way it works, it's direct connection. A fascial grab is controlling. And if you go all the way into the muscle, it's nothing. If you want to control, you get the fascial grab, and you're honestly engaging with the sensory apparatus that allows the meat bag simulation to stimulate and in the environment around you. So you're dealing with the structure of reality there, it seems like. Okay, isometrics. Where is my timer? There's my timer. I'm gonna go ahead and do this in sort of instructor mode. So what I'm gonna do is 30 seconds. I'm going to actually put 40 seconds on the clock because I'm going to spend about 10 seconds getting into the pose and describing it, and then allow me to do a full 30 seconds. So here we go. Feet parallel, knees bent, hip width. Relax your sacrum down. Feel a little bit of pressure maybe in your heels. My Tai Chi instructor, Rick Krause, described it as you sort of feel like your whole foot goes flat if you can do it. If you can't relax, push down. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and start pushing on the right side. As I'm doing this, I'm going to push my head up, drop my shoulders, and relax my left side as much as possible. And really, I'm actively pushing down my sternum, which I can feel in my hip flexors right here. I don't want it. And I'm also feeling the pressure from both into my trapezius and down to about mid rib cage on the back. Okay, and relax. Okay, we're going to repeat that ritualistically because it's a way of self-hypnosis. So feet parallel, knees bent, relax your sacrum down, feet feel heavy. I'm going to start pushing on the side, push my head up, fontanelle, and I'm going to relax my opposite side. And what I'm hoping to do is get some good pressure built between my hand and my head. I feel it in my trapezius, and the more I'm able to relax and align my body and pull my shoulders down, the deeper I'm able to get this into the side, in this case, the right side of my core. Okay, and now, same thing, front and back. We'll start with the front. Before I get started, interlaced hands, you want a symmetrical push, because if you do this on a regular basis and you have an asymmetrical push, you'll build yourself asymmetrically. No es bueno, middle way to go. So here we go. Feet parallel, knees bent. Relax the sacrum down. Looking forward, I'm going to push my head up. I'm going to drop my shoulders, and I'm going to push my forehead into my hands. And I'm really emphasizing in this case, pushing up the head and pushing down the sacrum. And I'm feeling the skin on my mid-lower back stretching right now. So shoulders down, skin stretching. Harder I push my shoulders down and push my sacrum down, the stronger the stretch on the back of my skin. Now, I can't describe what I just did, so never mind. And relax. Same thing back. Okay, and here we go. Feet parallel, knees bent. Relax the sacrum down. Feel some relaxing in your hip flexors. Hands interlaced, back of the head, and push in both directions. Now, relax and push your sacrum down. Drop your shoulders. and really push your head up. I've got my shoulders and my back all engaged. I'm somewhat getting my transverse abdominals, not as much as sometimes. But here's the thing. The thing about practice is it's never going to be the same. It's going to be a wide variety of examples. If you keep practicing, however, you'll notice it gets better, slowly better over time. So I call it farming because I play video games. Farming is the point. You keep farming for either you keep farming the things that work or you keep farming interruptions to see if you can find other ways of doing this. And shaking is like, in my opinion, the ultimate meta interruption because it interrupts you at both the physical and the mental level, and it's easy to do. So one last push. I'm going to add a little more time on this one because I like this one more. In fact, I'm going to give, oops, I don't want to do that. Here. I'm going to spend some more time describing this. All right, this is full Wu Chi, which is non-differentiation before Tai Chi, the separation of yin and yang. We're introducing yang into it, so I'm using the Wu Chi buildup, but it's not Wu Chi. Much like we change the yoga form in deep flexibility for a different intention, I'm using Wu Chi stance for a different intention. So feet parallel, knees bent, sacrum down. I feel some stretching right here, fontanelle up, and then hands down. Now I'm pushing, my hands are interlaced, and I'm pushing, my hands are centered on the back third of my head so that I'm pushing my neck straight up. You want to make sure that that thoracic spine is just perfectly aligned. So go by feel. Do not hurt your neck. Do not go off center. And by the way, you know what this is doing? This is improving your spine strength and also your posture. You improve your posture, you improve your balance. You improve your balance, you improve your Qigong. You improve your Qigong, you improve your balance. It's the ultimate yin-yang, self-referential, self-booting, stable gyroscope of continuous learning and improvement. Whew, okay. I'm mixing up a bunch of the metaphors I've been working with in my head. Time for HRV, then I'll come back. Right here, just took my HRV, started at 55, 15 minutes, 10 minutes of Qigong, and then 5 minutes of isometrics and such. I forgot to do forward fold, but whatever. And my heart rate variability dropped 6, so about 11%, which is pretty standard for when I'm fairly parasympathetic dominant. The interesting thing is, just made this random connection, and I'll tell you, I've been listening to my intuition lately, and it's been pretty spot on. So if I'm not mistaken, if I go back and look, in fact, if I look at my readings, in fact, yeah, here they are. My post readings have been mid 40s, low 40s, and this one was 49. And so I suspect I'm going to sleep pretty well tonight. And it seems like mid 40s is might maybe just it's a number, it's an arbitrary number. My 40 could be different from your 40, but the bottom line is if I'm using the same system of measurement and it's consistent, self-consistent, it doesn't matter what the number is, it's the interpretation of the number. So I'm tuning my expected sleep relative to one model. And if it works, great. If not, I'll tune it again. This is experimental play. Is that a differentiation? So there's a number, there's a range of numbers, and I notice, oh, well, that range of numbers is just that different range of numbers. So that's an example of a spark of possible ignorance leading to an experiment. And I might fail. It doesn't matter if I fail, because in fact, I can't fail. This is the irony. You have to fail. In failure, you cannot fail, right? Because either I'm successful or I learned that I'm not successful, and I learned that that is a way that doesn't work. So in fact, you simultaneously have to and cannot fail. The only way to fail is steady state. Steady state. No time can pass, because at some point you're going to expire and die. So the observation time window has to end eventually. So that means either you fail to learn anything, which is the ultimate failure to collapse into infinity, or you learn something, you stop doing. If you stop or you continue, you've learned enough to introduce a new distinction. So notice the paradox is to learn, you have to fail, prime the pump, introduce some energy. In the act of doing that, that sort of little singularity collapse, and then the explosion, your awareness jumps into another valence level that hovers above the original level of paradox or Mandelbrot fractal expansion. And so it is the act, the faithful act, the high ethical act of attempting to confirm a distinction that collapses a paradox and causes it to explode into a higher level of realization. Yeah, that works. Okay, so that's a lot of words, and it just makes a lot of sense to me. I'm gonna sort of turn it down a notch and do a forward fold since I didn't do it beforehand. Um, but that was quite a ramble there, wasn't it?